So, you came here, didn't you? You came here searching for something. Maybe you didn't even know what. You thought it would be entertainment, perhaps a little wisdom, maybe even a trick or two for feeling better about yourself. But I see through you. You came here because you're tired. Tired of begging, tired of bending, tired of being a little actor in a play you didn't audition for. You've been chasing approval so long you don't even remember who you were before the chase began. You've become addicted to applause, to praise, to those tiny digital rewards that flash across your screen like breadcrumbs dropped by a cruel master. You have confused their approval for your identity. And now here you are, face to face with me, hoping I will hand you the permission you've been begging for your entire life. Permission to stop, permission to let go, permission to be hated. But I am not here to give you permission. I am here to take your mask, smash it on the ground, and show you what you have been hiding from all along. Let me tell you something you already know, but have spent your life denying. You crave their approval because without it you don't exist. That is the sickness, the rot at the core of your being. You have built yourself out of the scraps of others' opinions, out of the fragile material of praise, likes, shares, smiles, and polite nods. Without that feedback loop, you fall into silence, and silence terrifies you, because in silence, there is no applause, there is no audience, there is no approval. In silence, there is only you, and you do not know who that is anymore. Every time you post something, you wait. You wait for numbers, for little glowing signs of validation. One more like, one more comment, one more signal that you are real, that you matter, that your performance is still being watched. And when the applause comes, you feel alive, you feel electric, you feel like you have purpose. But when it doesn't come, when the numbers stop rising, when the comments dry up, when the spotlight moves to someone else, you fall, you wither, you collapse, you feel worthless. That's because you are not alive in yourself. You are alive only in their eyes. You are not a person, you are a performance. Tell me, have you ever asked yourself why it matters so much? Why the approval of strangers, or even family, has become the currency of your soul? Do you know what it is? It is because you were trained. From the very beginning, you were trained like a little dog. Good grades, good job, good smile, good manners, all rewarded. Every time you pleased, you were fed. Every time you displeased, you were punished. And slowly the game became clear: to be loved, you must earn it. To be safe, you must submit. To be accepted, you must abandon yourself. You are not chasing approval because you want it. You are chasing approval because you believe you will die without it. But here's the cruel truth. Approval does not keep you alive. It keeps you chained. It keeps you enslaved. Every like, every nod, every smile, every round of applause is another link in the chain that binds you. You believe the chain is a lifeline, but it is a leash, and the ones clapping, smiling, nodding, they are not your saviors, they are your masters. Because the moment you rely on applause to breathe, they own your air. Think about the desperation in your own body. Think about the way you check your phone again and again, as if staring at it long enough will summon validation from the void. Think about the sinking feeling when it doesn't arrive fast enough. Think about how easily your mood rises and falls, not by anything real, but by numbers on a screen. You are a marionette dancing for a faceless crowd, begging for the next pull of the strings. And the cruelest part, you don't even know who is holding them anymore. What is applause, really? It is a sound, just noise, hands slapping together. And yet you built your life around chasing that sound. What are likes, really? Pixels on a screen, empty signals sent by people who may not even remember your name tomorrow. And yet you measure your worth by them. You let them tell you whether you are brilliant or worthless, lovable or unlovable, alive or dead. Do you see the absurdity? Do you see the joke? The applause you worship is hollow. The likes you worship are illusions. And yet, they have enslaved you more completely than any prison ever could. Here is the part you don't want to hear. Your addiction to applause has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with you. You would not be enslaved if you did not secretly believe you deserved it. You want them to clap because you do not believe you are enough without it. You want them to cheer because you cannot stand the silence of being alone with yourself. You want their approval because you refuse to approve of yourself. You hand your power to the crowd because you are too afraid to hold it yourself. You think you are chasing love, but you are only running from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of isolation, fear of discovering that beneath all the applause there might be nothing. That is why you cling so tightly to approval, because without it you might have to face yourself. And that is the one person you have spent your entire life avoiding. So here is the gift I bring you. Not comfort, not permission, not applause. I bring you a mirror. A mirror that shows you the addict you've become, the puppet you've turned into, the hollowness you've tried to cover with applause. And I will not let you look away. I will not let you pretend anymore, because until you face it, until you see it for what it is, you will remain a prisoner. The addiction of applause is not your entertainment. It is not your purpose. It is not your life. It is the cage you built to protect yourself from silence. But silence is not death. Silence is truth. Silence is the place where you finally stop performing and start living. And if you can endure the silence long enough, if you can stand still while the applause fades, you might hear something you have forgotten. You might hear your own voice. And that, my dear, is the only approval that has ever mattered. Niceness. That sugary little word people drip off their tongues like syrup, coating every rotten motive, every desperate little plea for approval. Niceness is the cheapest costume in the whole performance, the one everybody wears, the one everybody clings to because it keeps them safe. But let's not pretend, shall we? Niceness isn't kindness. Niceness isn't compassion. Niceness is camouflage. It's a mask painted in polite smiles and gentle nods, covering the snarling hunger underneath. You say, "Thank you," when you don't mean it. You nod in agreement when your stomach twists in disgust. You say yes when every bone in your body is screaming no. And you do it for one reason: to be liked. You see, niceness is a transaction. Every smile is an investment. Every compliment is a coin tossed into the wishing well of approval. You don't hold the door open because you care. You don't laugh at their jokes because they're funny. You don't listen because you want to understand. You do it because you're terrified of being disliked. That's the currency. That's the economy of your existence. You sell slivers of your truth in exchange for the possibility that someone, somewhere, might accept you. You barter away your voice, your boundaries, your honesty. And in return you get what? A nod, a smile. A temporary sense that you belong. It's pathetic, and yet it's the most common addiction in the world. Think about how often you swallow your truth for the sake of niceness. When you sit in silence while someone drones on with ignorance, you don't speak because you don't want to be rude. When someone steps on your boundaries, you let them, because saying stop would make you seem difficult. When you feel the weight of injustice pressing against your chest, you stay quiet because anger is ugly, and ugly doesn't get applause. Niceness, niceness, niceness. It suffocates you, but you wear it anyway because you think it's saving you. You think it's making you loved. But let me tell you a little secret: they don't love you. They love the mask. And isn't that the most delicious tragedy? They don't know you. They don't want to know you. They like the version of you that bends, that smiles, that accommodates, that dissolves into whatever shape pleases them. They like the watered down, sanded off, hollowed out shell you've sculpted to meet their approval. That mask, that's the real performer in this circus. That mask is what gets the applause. And you've been erased. The real you has been shoved into the attic, locked away, starved of sunlight because the world might find it offensive, sharp, inconvenient. The mask is loved. The mask is liked. And you are invisible. You tell yourself this is maturity, that it's just how the world works. You dress it up in noble words like diplomacy, civility, professionalism. But strip it down, and it's just fear. You are terrified of confrontation, terrified of rejection, terrified that if you showed them what you truly think, how you truly feel, what you truly want, they would recoil. So you choose the mask instead. You play nice. You keep the peace. You smile while your insides twist into knots. And then you wonder why you're exhausted. You wonder why you feel hollow, why you feel like a fraud, why you collapse in private when the mask finally slips from your face. It's because you've been betraying yourself every single day for the approval of strangers who wouldn't cross the street to save you if you were burning. Do you think niceness will save you? Do you think being agreeable, being pleasant, being soft and sweet will protect you when the world decides you're expendable? Niceness doesn't save anyone. Niceness is the first thing to be forgotten when the mob turns. History is full of nice people who vanished without a whisper, because niceness leaves no mark. Niceness doesn't change the world, it doesn't disrupt the story, it doesn't scare the powerful, it doesn't inspire the broken. Niceness is disposable. People forget niceness the moment they find someone louder, bolder, truer, and yet you cling to it as though it's your shield, when really it's the paper, thin mask that hides your face just long enough to make you forget you even had one. You want to know why you feel resentful, why you do everything right, why you please everyone, why you bend until you break, and still they don't give you the love you crave. It's because love cannot exist where there is no truth. If they like your mask, they don't love you. If they adore your performance, they don't adore you. If they praise your sweetness, your politeness, your endless willingness to comply, they are praising the mask, not the soul underneath. And deep down, you know it. That's why it gnaws at you. Why you lie awake at night feeling empty even after all the smiles and nods and pats on the back, because none of it touches you, none of it reaches you. They cannot love what you refuse to show. So let's call niceness what it really is: self-betrayal. Every fake smile is a betrayal. Every unspoken truth is a betrayal. Every time you let yourself be trampled in the name of harmony, you are betraying yourself. And here's the most bitter part: you think this betrayal will make them like you, but it doesn't. At best, it makes them tolerate you. At worst, it makes them ignore you. They don't respect the mask, they exploit it. They take advantage of it. They lean on your niceness, drain it, abuse it, because they know you won't resist. And you smile as they do it, because you've convinced yourself that being stepped on is the price of being liked. But what happens when the mask slips? When one day your exhaustion cracks through the smile, and you finally tell the truth, they recoil. They accuse you of changing, of being difficult, of being rude. They'll say, "You're not the person I thought you were." And for once, they'll be right. You're not. You never were. They were in love with the mask, not the person underneath. And when the mask falls, they scatter because they never cared about you. They only cared about how you made them feel. And that's the ultimate joke, isn't it? You sacrificed yourself for their approval, and in the end, you never had it anyway. So here's the punchline: niceness doesn't make you loved. It doesn't make you safe. It doesn't make you valuable. It just makes you invisible. And the longer you wear the mask, the deeper you bury yourself, until one day when you look in the mirror, you won't even recognize the face staring back. You'll only see the mask, and you'll realize, too late, that you were never liked. You were only used. Do you really believe you're free? Do you really think those decisions you make each day are your own? You wake up, you dress, you speak. You smile, you post, and deep down you whisper to yourself, "This is me, this is who I am." But it isn't you, not even close, it's them. It's the invisible hands pulling at your strings, jerking your limbs, twisting your smile into something rehearsed. Every gesture, every word, every thought has been rehearsed for an audience you don't even know is watching. You've been trained since birth to play along in their little circus. And the cruelest part is, you think you're the ringmaster. Look closely, the strings are everywhere. Parents, teachers, bosses, friends, strangers, screens glowing in the dark. They tell you what is acceptable, what is beautiful, what is respectable, what is dangerous, what is shameful. They don't hand you truth, they hand you scripts, and you perform them like a dutiful actor. Do you remember when you were a child and said something they didn't like? A scolding here, a punishment there, and before long you learned approval equals safety, disapproval equals pain. That was the first string tied around your wrist. Then came school. Raise your hand, wait for permission, give the correct answer. Applause for obedience, silence for defiance. Another string tied to your other wrist. Then came the glowing devices in your pocket, dangling digital treats in front of your face. Smile for the camera, post the highlight, hide the shadow. And with each heart and thumbs up, the string tightened around your neck. You see, puppeteers don't need chains. They don't need cages. They only need you to believe that being liked is survival. They convince you that approval is oxygen, and once you believe that lie, you'll beg for every breath. That's how they keep you dancing. They don't clap because you're extraordinary. They clap to keep you moving, to keep you dependent on the sound. And when the clapping stops, when the room falls silent, you panic. You beg for another show. You twirl, you bow, you bend, you twist yourself into whatever grotesque shape they demand. And you call this life. No. This is performance. This is puppetry disguised as freedom. But let's talk about the puppeteers themselves. Who are they really? You picture them as grand architects sitting in smoke-filled rooms, plotting out your life. But most of them aren't even aware of what they're doing. Your parents weren't villains. They were puppets too, passing down the same strings that bound them. Your teachers weren't masterminds. They were caught in the same script. And those strangers online clicking like or dislike, they don't even know you exist. They're too busy begging for their own approval, too busy pulling their own strings taut. The puppeteers are nothing more than puppets given the illusion of power. The system doesn't need conscious villains. It thrives on unconscious obedience. Think of society as a theater, and you are shoved onto the stage before you even know the lines. The audience jeers when you stumble, they cheer when you conform. And you, terrified of rejection, decide it's better to recite their lines than to risk silence. And so you spend years memorizing, practicing, performing, until you've forgotten what your own voice even sounds like. That's the genius of it. They don't just bind your hands, they bind your mind. They make you police yourself. You censor your own words, you trim your own thoughts, you silence your own rage, because somewhere in your head you hear their voices whispering. Don't say that, they won't like it. Don't do that, they won't accept you. You've become your own puppeteer, a prisoner guarding your own cell. But what happens if the strings snap? What happens when you refuse to play along? That's when they show their true faces. At first they laugh at you, call you foolish, reckless, crazy. Then they warn you, pressure you, guilt you. And if that doesn't work, they reject you, exile you, leave you alone. Because nothing terrifies them more than someone who doesn't need the strings. Someone who moves without permission. Someone who dares to stand still when everyone else is dancing. The puppeteers lose their power when you stop begging for their applause. And without power, they are nothing but fragile, trembling creatures desperate for you to return to the stage. Have you ever noticed how society adores rebels only after they're dead? The thinker, the artist, the visionary. They were hated in life, mocked, condemned. But once they were gone, once they could no longer defy, society painted halos over their heads and pretended to admire them. Why? Because the puppeteers cannot tolerate living proof that the strings can be cut. They need conformity. They need obedience. They need you to crave their approval. A free man, a free woman, a free spirit that is a virus to their system. And so they call you insane, dangerous, destructive. But let me ask you, is there not more dignity in madness than in servitude? You've been told that society keeps you safe, that the rules protect you. That conformity guarantees happiness. Lies, the rules keep you predictable. Conformity keeps you small. Approval keeps you chained. Safety is the carrot dangled in front of you. Happiness is the stick behind your back, and all the while the puppeteers keep tugging, and you keep bowing. You give up your voice, your time, your dreams, all for the chance to be liked by people who do not even like themselves. Now, let me twist the knife. Imagine living your whole life for their approval, and one day, at the end, realizing it never mattered, the applause dies with them. The clapping hands turn to dust. The likes vanish, the followers forget, the names blur. What remains? Nothing. You've wasted decades begging for nods from ghosts. That's the final trick of the puppeteer. They don't just steal your present, they rob your future. But there is a way out. You must learn to see the strings for what they are, illusions. They exist only if you believe in them. Approval is not oxygen, rejection is not death. The puppeteers only win because you consent to dance. The moment you stop, the moment you stand still in the silence, you'll feel it. The weight lift, the strings loosen, the freedom flood in. It will terrify you at first, yes, because freedom is heavier than chains. But once you taste it, once you realize that the world does not end when they stop clapping, you will laugh, not out of mockery, but out of pure, unshakable liberation. So here's the truth you've been too afraid to face. Society does not need your obedience, it demands it. And the only way to live is to deny it. Tear off the strings, burn the stage, and let the puppeteers choke on their own silence. Because the moment you no longer crave their approval, you are beyond their reach. You become untouchable. You become real. Do you know what it means to be hated? Not disliked, not gently frowned upon, but truly hated. To feel the daggers of disgust in their eyes, to hear the whispers of venom behind your back, to know that your very existence makes their skin crawl. People think it's a curse, a punishment, something to avoid at all costs. But that's where they're wrong. That's where the grand illusion crumbles. Hatred, my dear listener, is freedom. Hatred is liberation dressed in fire, because when they hate you, they no longer own you. Their approval, their acceptance, their precious validation, suddenly it's gone. It can't touch you anymore. You become untouchable, because you no longer live in their cage. Think about it. When you're liked, you're chained. You're chained to their smiles, their nods, their shallow applause. You must keep feeding the beast, day after day, never slipping, never daring to show them something they don't want to see. Every action is weighed, every word rehearsed, every step calculated to protect that fragile approval. That is slavery dressed up as popularity. But hatred burns the chains. When they've already decided they despise you, you are free to move however you want. You cannot disappoint the ones who have written you off. You cannot betray expectations that no longer exist. Hatred is a gift because it removes the leash. People are terrified of rejection because they think it diminishes them. They imagine being hated as a kind of social death. But I'll let you in on the real joke. Rejection is resurrection. It is the moment you stop living for them and start living for yourself. When you walk into a room and see the eyes rolling, the lips curling, the mutters spreading, do you know what that means? It means you've stopped playing their game. It means you've started playing your own. Hatred is proof of courage, proof that you've broken the script, and the ones who hate you are the most reliable audience you'll ever have, because they will never forget you. They will carry your name in their mouths like a bitter taste long after those who liked. You have moved on to the next distraction. Let's examine those who fear being hated. They walk on eggshells, don't they? Afraid to upset, afraid to offend, afraid to shine too brightly or stand too firmly. They tiptoe through life, careful not to rattle the fragile comfort of others. And what happens to them? They are forgotten. They blend into the background, gray and lifeless, swallowed by the mass of mediocrity. They spend their days being careful, and in the end, they leave no mark. Being liked makes you invisible. Being hated makes you unforgettable. Hatred is a mirror of fear. When people hate you, it's rarely about you. It's about what you represent. You become a reminder of the truth they'd rather not see, the boldness they wish they had, the freedom they are too afraid to grasp. People hate the rebel because he exposes their chains. They hate the one who refuses to bow because he shows them how often they kneel. Hatred is not proof that you are wrong. It is proof that you have touched a nerve, that you have awakened something buried deep in their fragile little egos. If no one hates you, it only means you've never dared to truly live. Now, let's talk about the delicious paradox. You spend your life trying to be liked, thinking that if enough people smile at you, you'll finally feel whole. But every like you gather is a chain around your throat, because now you must guard it. You cannot upset them. You cannot change. You cannot grow. You're trapped in the prison of their affection. But the moment they hate you, that prison collapses. You are free to say what you want, do what you want, be who you are, without the burden of their approval. Hatred is the open door to authenticity. And authenticity, my dear, is rarer than gold. I know what you're thinking, but it hurts to be hated. Yes, at first it stings. At first the poison seeps into your skin, but pain is part of freedom. It's the price of escape. And once you've tasted it long enough, you find it's not poison at all. It's fire. It burns away the weakness. It burns away the neediness. It leaves only the core, the raw, unshakable self that no one can touch. Hatred is not the end, it is the refining process, the trial by flame that forges the strongest steel. Look at history. The most unforgettable figures, the ones who shaped worlds, broke systems, changed minds. They were hated first. They were ridiculed, attacked, condemned. They were outcasts before they were icons. The masses always hate what they don't understand, what they cannot control, what threatens their fragile little order. And yet, who remembers the people who were merely liked? Who carves statues for the ones who never rocked the boat? Nobody. The hated ones are the ones etched into memory, into legend, into fear. So, here's the twist: you've been too blind to see being hated is not the nightmare. It is the dream. It is the escape from the suffocating need to please. It is the crack in the mask, the break in the cage, the laugh in the silence. When you are hated, you are free. Free from their claps, free from their judgment, free from the endless, exhausting charade. They no longer own you. They can curse you, mock you, spit at you, but they cannot control you. Hatred is the truest independence you will ever taste. And once you've swallowed it, once you've embraced the delicious freedom of being hated, something incredible happens. You stop caring, you stop begging, you stop kneeling, and in that moment you become dangerous, because the world can only control those who crave its love, the ones who embrace its hate. They are untouchable, they are wild, they are free. So, tell me, do you still want to be liked? Or are you ready for the only real freedom that exists, the freedom of being hated, popularity, the shiny crown that dangles above every desperate head, the thing you chase like a starving dog chasing scraps thrown from a stranger's table. You dress it up in noble words, influence, success, status. But strip the costume off, and what's left is nothing but the pathetic craving to be recognized, to be acknowledged, to be adored by faces you don't even know. That's the joke. Popularity is a costume party where everyone wears the same mask, and the only thing that changes is who gets to stand in the spotlight. The crowd claps, the crowd cheers, and for a fleeting second, you feel like a god. But gods don't beg for applause. Only slaves do. You see, popularity isn't power. It pretends to be, but it isn't. Power bends reality. Power rewrites the rules. Popularity, on the other hand, is a leash disguised as a medal. To be popular, you must obey the rules of the herd. You must smile when they demand smiles, frown when they demand sorrow, rage when they demand outrage. You must shrink your edges, file down your teeth, smooth over your scars until you are safe enough to worship. And once you have done all of that, once you've carved yourself into the perfect idol, you'll find you are nothing more than a puppet, your strings pulled by the very mob you thought you controlled. That is the exquisite irony of it. You chase popularity for freedom, but it cages you tighter than anything else. Think about the ones you've worshipped, the celebrities, the trendsetters, the golden idols you plaster on your walls and screens. They are not rebels. They are not originals. They are perfectly engineered echoes of what the herd already wanted. They don't tell you the truth. They tell you what you want to hear. They don't shock you. They flatter you, and you clap like trained animals, mistaking comfort for brilliance. The popular are not wolves leading the pack. They are sheep crowned as kings, adored not for their strength but for their compliance. And what happens when the crowd changes its mind? What happens when the flavor of the month spoils? When the darling of yesterday stumbles? When the golden child reveals a crack in the mask? The crowd turns, the cheers become boos, the applause becomes silence, and the same mob that lifted them up becomes the executioner. Popularity is a stage built on quicksand. You dance, you perform, you bow, and one day the ground swallows you whole. The audience moves on, hungry for the next sacrifice. If you think you are loved for who you are already dead. You are loved for the role you play, and roles can be recast at any moment. The cruelest part is that you know this. Deep down, you know. That's why you're terrified of silence. That's why you refresh the screen, count the followers, replay the applause in your head. You know that if the noise stops, you vanish. You've tied your existence to the fickle taste of strangers, and now you belong to them. You don't own yourself anymore. They own you. They decide your worth, your relevance, your survival. You can call that living if you want, but I call it slavery dressed up in sequins. Now let me give you a little story. There was once a boy who dreamed of being admired. He was clever, funny, charming in just the right doses. He learned what the people liked and he gave it to them. First, a small circle adored him, then a crowd, then an army. His name was everywhere. His smile was currency. His words were repeated like scripture. But every night when the noise faded, he sat alone with a truth he couldn't escape. He didn't exist anymore. The version of him that the world adored was not real. It was a sculpture carved by a million hands, each applause shaving a little more of his true self away. And when, at last, he dared to show a piece of his real face, the crowd gasped, not in love but in betrayal. They abandoned him overnight because the truth was never what they wanted. They wanted the mask. And when the mask cracked, they left him to rot. That is the joke of popularity. You spend your life chasing it, only to discover it was never yours to begin with. So why do you keep running after it? Because it feels good, doesn't it? The eyes, the whispers, the validation. It's intoxicating, but so is poison for a moment. Popularity gives you a taste of immortality, the illusion that you matter. But the more you drink, the more it hollows you out. You wake up one day and realize that you've built your entire identity out of borrowed applause. Take the crowd away, and there is nothing left but a hollow shell. Here's the secret they never tell you: obscurity is freedom. Being unseen, unheard, unnoticed, terrifying, yes, but liberating. Because when you don't need to be popular, you can finally be yourself. You can say the forbidden words, take the forbidden steps, break the sacred rules without trembling over whether they'll clap or hiss. You can be a wolf, not a sheep dressed in glitter. That's the part no one tells you. Popularity doesn't make you free, it makes you weak. Only the unpopular are free, because they have nothing to lose and no one to impress. And here's the punchline: the ones who change the world, the ones who bend reality, the ones who truly matter, they are never popular at first. They are mocked, hated, dismissed, feared. They are called crazy, dangerous, foolish. The herd spits them out because the herd cannot digest the truth. But later, when the dust settles, when the world finally catches up, those same misfits are remembered as legends. Popularity does not crown them. History does. So the next time you find yourself begging for likes, for followers, for applause, ask yourself, are you chasing power? Or are you chasing a leash? Are you building a life? Or are you auditioning for a crowd that will forget you tomorrow? The joke of popularity is that the crowd never loved you. They only loved the mask you wore. And the moment you remove it, they will turn on you. That is not love. That is not power. That is not freedom. That is a cage. And you lock the door yourself. The cost of approval is never printed on the receipt, but it is always collected in full. You believe it is harmless, that every nod, every smile, every little tap of validation comes free of charge. But nothing in this world is free. Every time you bend yourself just a little to fit their taste, every time you swallow your truth to keep their affection, every time you bite your tongue because you fear their judgment, you pay. You pay with pieces of your soul, and little by little, those pieces don't grow back. You sell yourself one compliment at a time, and by the end of the transaction, you don't even know what was yours to begin with. That is the cruel trick of approval. It demands sacrifices disguised as choices. You think you are choosing to be polite, to be agreeable, to be liked. But what you are really doing is cutting away slivers of your own authenticity, trading them for coins of false belonging. And when the trade is complete, you will discover that you no longer have a self, only a mask stitched together from other people's preference. The worst part is not that you gave it away, it's that you did it willingly. Nobody held a gun to your head. Nobody forced you to perform. You volunteered. You chose to smile when you wanted to scream. You chose to nod when you wanted to shake your head. You chose to dress, speak, act, and think in ways that matched the expectations of strangers who never truly cared about you. And why? Because you feared the alternative. Because silence scared you more than slavery. Because rejection cut deeper than betrayal. You shackled yourself, and you called the chains friendship. You locked your own cage, and you called it love. You burned your own face, and you called the ashes popularity. That is the price of approval. You must amputate yourself until nothing remains but a hollow echo of what others want to hear. They never tell you that every approval you chase builds a hunger that can never be satisfied. You cannot win the game because the rules are rigged against you. 1 like will not soothe you, 10 will not satisfy you, 1,000 will not quench you. Approval is a hunger that grows sharper with every bite. You will run faster, dance harder, smile wider, and still the applause will never be enough. It fades too quickly, leaving you empty again, desperate for the next fix. That emptiness is the collection plate of approval. It takes your energy, your focus, your sanity, and it gives you nothing lasting in return. Just noise, just smoke, just an illusion that collapses the moment the curtain falls. And what of the people whose approval you crave so much? They are fickle creatures, swaying with the winds of boredom and fashion. One moment they love you. The next, they replace you with someone sheenier, louder, younger, newer. The tragedy is that by then, you will have already betrayed yourself so many times that you will not even remember who you were before you began performing for them. You will look into the mirror and see only a stranger, a polished puppet, smiling on command, incapable of authenticity because authenticity was the first thing you sacrificed. That is the cruelest bill of all. Not that you lose the crowd, but that you lose yourself. The truth is, approval is a leash. They tug and you move. They frown and you freeze. They smile and you wag your tail. You call it acceptance, but it is obedience. You think you are climbing a ladder, but the ladder is inside a cage. Higher you go, the stronger the bars become. Approval doesn't free you, it domesticates you. You become tame, predictable, safe. And safety is the enemy of greatness. No one ever changed the world by being liked. No one ever carved their name into history by bending to the applause of the herd. They spat on the rules, they broke the expectations. They burned the script. The ones who dared to stand alone are the only ones still remembered. And yet, here you are, content to be liked, content to be invisible, content to sell your soul for pennies of validation. You may believe that being liked protects you. You may believe that blending in shields you from pain. But approval is a weak shield, and it cracks at the first blow. When the crowd turns, and they always do, the very people who once smiled at you will sharpen their teeth. The mob loves its idols only so it can enjoy tearing them down later. You are not building loyalty by pleasing them. You are feeding wolves who will devour you when the taste changes. You are writing your own execution order with every act of compliance. They will burn you, not because you were hated, but because you were disposable. The price of approval is death by 1,000 cuts. Not the glorious kind of death, not the heroic kind, but a quiet, pathetic, invisible death. Every compromise slices a piece of you away. Every fake laugh, every swallowed word, every fake smile, all little cuts, dripping drops of your essence until you are drained. When the bleeding is done, when the performance is over, you will not even be a corpse. You will be a mannequin, an empty shell, a husk painted in whatever colors the audience demands. They will applaud the shell, but they will never know who was lost inside it. And worse, neither will you. So tell me, is it worth it? Is the fleeting applause worth the permanent silence inside? Is the crown of popularity worth the guillotine of emptiness? Is their approval worth your extinction? You answer yes every time you perform, every time you surrender, every time you give away the sacred parts of yourself for scraps of affection. But one day, when the applause dies down, when the crowd grows tired, when you are left alone in the silence, you will realize what you traded. You will realize the cost. And the joke, the bitter, merciless joke, will be that you never needed their approval at all. You only needed your own. But by then, your approval will be gone, lost in the ashes of a self you sold too cheaply. That is the price of approval, and it is always higher than you can afford. They call it madness when you stop kneeling. They call it madness when you refuse to bow. They call it madness when you walk away from the stage, tear off the mask, and stop begging for the crowd's approval. But have you ever wondered why? Have you ever asked yourself why they brand you with that word so quickly, so viciously? Because the moment you stop playing their game, you expose it. You expose the rotten board they've been playing on. You expose the invisible rules they've been enslaved by. You expose the fact that the whole performance has always been a joke. And when you expose the joke, people get frightened. They tremble, because deep down they know they're still playing. They know they're still chasing applause, still starving for validation, still desperate to be seen. heard, acknowledged, and your refusal reminds them of their own chains. That's why they'll call you mad. But let's talk about that word, madness. What is madness really? Is it losing your mind, or is it finally reclaiming it? Is it being broken, or is it being the only one unbroken in a world where everyone has already shattered themselves into little pieces to fit the puzzle of social acceptance? You see, what they call madness is nothing more than freedom. Freedom from the audience, freedom from the script, freedom from the endless craving for approval that eats away at their souls. Madness is liberation. Madness is walking into the crowd with your own voice, your own face, your own truth, and not caring whether they cheer or they boo. Madness is walking out of their cage, slamming the door behind you and throwing away the key. They'll laugh at you first. They'll mock you, sneer, roll their eyes, whisper behind your back. That's their first defense, because laughter is easier than reflection. But then, if you keep walking, if you keep ignoring their games, they'll get angry. They'll rage, point fingers, call you dangerous, unstable, a threat. And in a way, they're right. Because once you embrace what they call madness, you become untouchable. They can't control you anymore. They can't bribe you with attention or enslave you with disapproval. You're beyond their reach, and that terrifies them. The beautiful irony is this: the ones who look the most sane are usually the most broken. The ones who smile politely, who fit perfectly into the crowd, who play the game of likes and claps and compliments, those are the ones who have lost themselves entirely. They're hollow, echoes of what the crowd demands. They are the true lunatics, performing every second of their lives for approval that vanishes the moment the spotlight shifts. But you, when you embrace your so-called madness, you reclaim yourself, your whole, unaided, raw. They'll call it chaos, but you'll know it's truth. There's a strange kind of peace in madness, a calmness. When you're no longer weighing your words against the scale of popularity, when you're no longer editing your every gesture to win another meaningless nod, when you finally stop playing dress up for the gallery, something extraordinary happens. You breathe. For the first time, you actually breathe. And in that breath, you discover something they never told you. You were never meant to be liked by everyone. You were never meant to be understood by everyone. You were never meant to be swallowed by the crowd. You were meant to stand apart, to carry your own voice, to move with your own rhythm. That's madness. Yes, but it's the kind of madness that saves you. Think of the artists, the visionaries, the outcasts, the revolutionaries. Every one of them was called mad, not because they were broken, but because they refused to break the way society demanded. They refused to bend their backs for cheap applause. They refused to decorate their cages and call it happiness, and because of that refusal, they were hated, exiled, condemned. But in the end, they were the ones who truly lived. They were the ones who carved new paths, who shattered old illusions, who left behind legacies that still echo long after the polite performers have been forgotten. Madness is the womb of creation. Madness is the forge of individuality. Madness is not a curse, it's the cure. So what happens when you step into it fully? When you accept that they will call you crazy, unstable, dangerous, you find power. The kind of power they can't buy or bargain with. The kind of power that comes from standing alone and not trembling. Imagine walking through a world where every single person is begging for approval and just you stand there refusing it. Do you realize how unstoppable that makes you? They can boo, they can hiss, they can spit, but you keep smiling because you don't need their applause anymore. And in that moment, you're freer than kings. They'll try to drag you back, of course. They'll tempt you with shiny rewards, with false promises, with sweet little bribes dressed up as friendship or love. They'll say, come back, be normal, play nice, be liked. But once you've tasted madness, those bribes taste like ashes. Once you've seen how shallow the game is, you can never unsee it. The stage feels smaller, the audience looks duller, and the applause sounds empty. And you'll laugh, not the hollow laugh of a performer, but the genuine laugh of someone who finally knows the truth. Madness is liberation because it teaches you to live without the leash. Approval is a leash, always has been, always will be. It pulls, it yanks, it chokes, and you follow because you think you need it to survive. But you don't, you can cut it, walk away, breathe freely, and still live. More than that, you can thrive. You can stand in the silence they fear and discover that silence is not death. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is life. Silence is freedom. And once you make peace with that silence, you will never again bow to the noise of the crowd. So let them call you mad. Let them whisper, point, laugh, rage. Wear it like a crown. Madness is not your weakness. It's your liberation. It's the key they never wanted you to find, the door they never wanted you to open, the truth they never wanted you to taste. They'll say you've lost your mind, but you'll know you've gained it. And once you're free, once you no longer need their applause, their approval, their likes, their smiles, you become something far more dangerous than popular. You become yourself. And there is nothing more terrifying to the world than someone who no longer asks permission to exist. Mirrors. You've surrounded yourself with them, haven't you? Not just the glass ones that hang on your bathroom wall. No, I'm talking about the human mirrors, the digital mirrors, the endless reflections of yourself you go begging for, reflections crafted in the eyes of strangers. Every glance, every comment, every like is another piece of silvered glass, and you press your face against it, asking, do I look right? Do I sound right? Do I matter now? That's the tragedy. You've forgotten what your own face looks like. You can't recognize yourself without someone else holding up a reflection for you. That is why you're fragile. That is why you're empty. Because you've built your identity out of borrowed images, secondhand opinions, and recycled approval. Strip it all away, and you wouldn't know who you are. You'd just be staring into nothing, and nothing is terrifying, isn't it? The mirror whispers lies in your ear, but they're sweet, intoxicating lies. If they smile, you're lovable. If they clap, you're talented. If they share, you're important. And you believe it every single time, because you're addicted to the comfort of the reflection. You never stop to ask what happens when the mirror turns away. What happens when it cracks, when it warps, when it stops showing you the image you crave? You panic, don't you? You scramble to fix it, adjust it, polish it. You change your hair, your voice, your words, your very soul, just to see a better reflection smiling back at you. That's not living. That's performing for glass. You've never noticed how cruel mirrors are, have you? They never show the truth, only a distortion. You think the people applauding you are praising you, but they're only praising the mask you polished for them. You think the strangers liking your photo are blessing your existence, but they're only feeding their own boredom for a second before scrolling on. And yet you cling to that second, that flicker of attention, as if it proves you're alive. Pathetic, but predictable, because you were trained for it. From the moment you learned to smile for your parents' camera, to the moment you learned to smile for the crowd, you were conditioned to see yourself only in reflections. You don't know what it's like to stand without one. Here's the truth, sharp and unpolished: the mirror is a prison. It cages you in the expectations of everyone else. It tells you what you should be, how you should act, who you should become. It shows you the version of yourself that will get the nods, the applause, the pat on the back, and you obey. You obey because you're terrified of being invisible, of being disliked, of being misunderstood. But freedom comes when you shatter it, when you smash the glass and refuse to pick up the pieces, when you stop asking, do they like me, and start declaring, this is me, whether they like it or not. That's when the chains fall. That's when you finally crawl out of the funhouse and into the raw daylight of reality. But here's the problem with freedom: it's ugly, it's lonely. When you destroy the mirror, you destroy the comfort it gave you. You will face the silence of no applause, the sting of no approval, the cold stare of indifference. Most people can't stomach it. They run back to the glass, bleeding hands and all, desperate for another reflection to soothe them. That's why so few are truly free, because they'd rather be caged with compliments than naked in the wilderness of authenticity. But not you, not anymore. You've come too far to crawl back. You've heard the rattle of your own chains, and now every clink is unbearable. You know the mirror is a lie, so why not smash it once and for all? Imagine it, the shatter, the explosion of shards scattering across the floor. Every shard is a reflection that used to own you. Every shard is a false smile, a forced laugh, a desperate compromise. and now it's broken. Now it's powerless. You're bleeding. Sure, freedom always costs blood, but you're finally alive. You're no longer addicted to the image. You don't need the reflection to validate your existence. You don't need a mirror to tell you that you are real. For the first time, you can see with your own eyes instead of through the lens of others. That's terrifying, yes, but it's also exhilarating, because once you've tasted that raw clarity, you'll never crawl back to the glass prison again. The mirror will beg for you to return. It will lure you with its shiny promises, its sweet deceptions, its familiar comfort. And the world will beg too. They'll demand you polish yourself back into something they can admire. They'll scream that you've lost your mind, that you've gone mad, that you've ruined yourself. But that's when you know you're finally free. Because when they call you mad, what they really mean is that you stopped obeying. You stopped reflecting. You stopped caring about their approval. You tore down the altar where they wanted you to worship their opinions. And that makes you dangerous. That makes you untouchable. That makes you truly alive. So here's the challenge. Smash the mirror. Shatter it without hesitation. Let the shards cut into your skin. Let the blood remind you that you're not an image. You're a living, breathing chaos that doesn't need to be polished for anyone. Destroy the reflection and watch how quickly the world recoils. They'll despise you for it. They'll laugh at you. They'll whisper, they'll sneer. And every insult, every rejection, every ounce of hatred will be proof that you're no longer chained to their glass. Proof that you're no longer begging to be liked. Proof that you're finally your own. When the last shard falls silent, when the dust settles, when you're standing there without a reflection to cling to, you'll feel the weight lift. You'll feel the absurdity of it all, the comedy of how long you wasted trying to polish an image that never mattered. And then you'll laugh, not the hollow laugh of someone trying to be approved of, but the laugh of someone who no longer cares. The laugh of someone who has destroyed the mirror and discovered something the crowd never will. Freedom is ugly, freedom is painful, but freedom is real, and reality is worth more than every fake reflection in the world. They told you who you were before you even opened your mouth. They dressed you in labels, stitched your name to expectations, and carved the rules into your flesh. Be polite, be agreeable, be likable. Do not upset the crowd, do not stand out too much, but do not blend in too little. Smile when they expect it, cry only when permitted, laugh only at the approved jokes. Your entire existence has been a stage rehearsal for someone else's script, and you have performed it beautifully, haven't you? You've been obedient, tame, predictable. But tell me this, when the applause fades, when the masks are peeled away, when the lights go black, who are you then? Do you even know? Or are you just an echo of what they wanted you to be? Here is the truth they never wanted you to hear. The person you have been is not you. It is their invention, their puppet, their sweet little creation to keep the machine running. Every compromise you made, every smile you forced, every word you swallowed down for the sake of being liked, that was not your soul. It was your prison uniform. And it fit you so well, didn't it? You wore it proudly. You called it safety. You called it belonging. But you know what it really was. A leash. A chain tied around your neck, tugged whenever you strayed too far from the herd. That is the identity they gave you. That is the life you've been wasting away inside. But now we rip it apart. Now we burn the mask. Because your new identity is not a costume that pleases the audience. Your new identity is the you that terrifies them. The you that does not beg. The you that does not kneel for applause. The you that would rather be hated for truth than loved for lies. That is the birth they tried to prevent. That is the fire they tried to suffocate. But here it is, roaring, crackling, breaking through the cracks in your skin. You feel it, don't you? The urge to scream instead of smile. The hunger to stand when they told you to kneel. The savage freedom of saying, I don't care what you think of me. That is your new identity. Not something they gave you, but something you take back by force. You see, the old identity was designed for comfort. That's why it was so intoxicating. Comfort of being liked. Comfort of fitting in. Comfort of being approved by the faceless masses. But comfort kills. Comfort dulls your edges, suffocates your wildness, buries your soul under layers of politeness and cowardice. Your new identity must terrify you. It must feel dangerous, raw, alive, because life is not polite, life is not comfortable. Life is blood, chaos, rebellion, and if your new self does not make their hands tremble and their voices whisper in fear, then you are not reborn yet. You are still wearing the old mask, still dancing for the applause. Think about what being liked cost you. Think of the nights you stayed quiet when your voice was begging to erupt. Think of the people you agreed with just to keep their approval, even when your bones screamed against it. Think of the lies you told yourself to keep the peace. Every single compromise was a nail hammered into the coffin of your real self. And for what? A round of applause from people who do not matter, who will not remember you, who would turn on you in an instant if it were convenient. That applause was a curse disguised as love, and you begged for it like it was air. No more. Your new identity will not beg. It will not bow. It will not shiver under the cold stare of rejection. Instead, it will thrive in it. Let them disapprove. Let them hate. Let them spit your name with venom. Good. Every insult they throw is a confession that you are no longer under their control. Every time they call you selfish, cruel, arrogant, unlikable, it means you are finally free. They despise you because you remind them of what they lack: courage. Courage to stand naked in their truth. Courage to walk away from the herd. Courage to live without a leash. They do not hate you for who you are. They hate you for what you reveal about them. So what does your new identity look like? It is not polished. It is not polite. It is jagged, unpredictable, untamed. It is fire in a world of damp wood. It is laughter in a funeral, silence in a crowd, defiance in a temple of obedience. Your new self is a storm, and storms are never liked. They are feared, respected, unstoppable. And isn't that what you wanted all along? Not their approval, not their pity, not their fleeting applause. What you wanted was power. The power to exist without needing permission. The power to walk away without turning back. The power to stand in silence and know you are enough, even if no one claps. This is not an easy path. I will not lie to you. The moment you embrace your new identity, the crowd will turn on you. They will hiss, they will mock, they will paint you as the villain. But villains are the only ones who write their own story. Heroes are chosen, crafted, celebrated by the same crowds that would destroy them the second they disobeyed. Villains are free, and freedom has always been the real enemy of the herd. When you stop needing to be liked, you step into that villain's role, not because you are evil, but because you finally belong to yourself. Your new identity is yours to claim, but here is the warning: once you take it, you cannot return. Once you taste the raw, bitter flavor of freedom, the sweet poison of approval will never satisfy you again. You will see it for what it is: a trick, bribe, a leash, and the crowd will never forgive you for spitting it out. But you will not need their forgiveness. You will not need their love. You will not need them at all. So here is your choice: cling to the old mask, the fake face they liked but never loved, or rip it off and step into the storm. Walk away from the applause. Let the silence swallow you whole, and then laugh, because in that silence, in that terrifying emptiness, you will finally hear your own voice. That voice is your identity. That voice is your freedom. That voice is the only thing that has ever truly belonged to you. So ask yourself now, do you want to be liked, or do you want to be free? And now, here we are at the end. You've squirmed through the shadows, listened to the snarls, tasted the venom, and still you sit there waiting for something neat, something final, something you can put in your pocket like a souvenir. You want a conclusion. You want a bow tied on the box. You want me to give you that one clean line you can tattoo on your chest and pretend it makes you fearless. But you don't understand, do you? The whole time you've been here, you've still been performing. Even now, you're not listening with your own ears. You're listening through theirs. You're already wondering, what will people think if I believe this? What will they say if I change? You came here seeking destruction of your need to be liked, but you still crave that whisper of applause echoing somewhere in the back of your head. That is the joke. That has always been the joke. You see, the world convinced you that approval is survival. That without a smile from the crowd, without a nod from the tribe, you are naked, vulnerable, condemned to starve in the cold. And you swallowed that story, every poisonous drop of it. They raised you on it, parents wagging their fingers, teachers scrawling red marks across your efforts, bosses frowning if you dared to stray. They told you, be good, be nice, be agreeable, be likable. And you obeyed because you thought obedience was safety. But safety was the bait. Safety was the leash. They never wanted you safe. They wanted you tame. And you have been. You've danced for decades inside that cage of approval, convinced it was a stage. You thought the clapping hands were a reward, when really they were shackles, tightening every time you bowed. That's the punchline. You lived for their smiles, but those smiles were the teeth of the trap. Now listen closely. This is where the truth stings. They never liked you, not once. They liked the character you invented for their consumption. They liked the mask polished to hide the raw skin beneath. They liked the version of you edited, censored, painted, filtered, packaged. And every time you changed yourself to keep their affection, you lost another piece of what was real. By now, most of you is just a patchwork quilt of expectations sewn together by trembling hands. And if tomorrow they turned away, if tomorrow they hated the puppet you built, what would you have left? Nothing, not a spine, not a voice, not even a self. Just dust swept up by the same mob you worshipped. That's the tragedy hidden in the comedy. You are erased by the very applause you chased. So why cling to it? Why still beg for that poisonous sweetness? Because you are afraid. Afraid of being hated, afraid of being mocked, afraid of being alone. You believe rejection will kill you. You think disapproval will crush your lungs and choke the air from your throat. But it won't. It never could. Hatred cannot kill you. Silence cannot kill you. What kills you is kneeling. What kills you is the constant contortion of your spirit to fit into cages too small for your bones. What kills you is the belief that to be disliked is to be nothing. That is the lie you've been feasting on. And I tell you now, spit it out, vomit it up, starve on your own terms before you feed another day on that garbage. Here is the liberation you've been too blind to see. Being disliked is freedom. The moment they despise you, the moment they call you mad, arrogant, delusional, dangerous, you are no longer bound by their strings. When they hate you, you are untouchable, because there is nothing left for them to threaten, no approval to take away, no smile to dangle over your head. The leash breaks, the whip falls silent. You are finally your own, and it terrifies them. They will call you insane. They will scream that you are wrong. They will paint you as villain, as fool, as monster. But beneath the screaming, listen carefully, and you'll hear the truth they cannot admit. They envy you. They envy the one who does not bow. So let me ask you one final time. What do you want? Do you still want their approval, their fragile nods, their hollow applause? Or do you want freedom, raw and jagged and terrifying but real? Because you cannot have both, you must choose. Approval means chains. Freedom means fire. If you want to be liked, you will forever be their servant. If you want to be free, you must be willing to be despised, to be abandoned, to be the joke they whisper about. But the joke will be theirs, always theirs, because you will walk away laughing, and they will still be performing. Here is the punchline. They wanted you to be liked. I want you to be alive. They wanted you to be approved. I want you to be unchained. They wanted you to fit inside their little box. I want you to smash the box and dance in the ashes. And when the dust clears, when the audience has gone home, when the applause has died and the lights have dimmed, there will be only you, not the mask, not the puppet. You finally unrecognizable to the world, finally uncontrollable, finally untouchable. And you will realize what they never could. To be disliked is to be free, and to be free is to finally exist. That is the punchline. And the punchline, my dear, is all yours.